Hello guys, it's Shayna again with Raising TSC, and today I wanted to talk about something really important, and that is how I cope with my daughter's difficult diagnosis. It's a question I get asked a lot, and I would say that anybody who's got a neurotypical child or just, the average healthy kid doesn't really understand what it is that I'm going through. So I get it a lot, or I get comments like, "Oh, well, you're a special person to handle something like that." And that's not the case at all. I'm not a special person, and I don't have like this incredible amount of strength, and that's why I have a child with a difficult diagnosis. In fact, it's kind of one of those things that hurt when people say it a little bit. It's kind of got a little sting to it. And I just wanted to say, I feel like the biggest thing is knowing that I'm human, knowing that if you've got a child with a difficult diagnosis, that you're human. And in the beginning, that really means that having an emotion about these things is a really good and normal thing. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't still a little bit depressed. And that's okay. In the beginning, when I first got my daughter's diagnosis at 28 weeks of my pregnancy, the first thing they found actually was just on an ultrasound. I'll never forget it. We were doing the ultrasound and everything was going good. It was like my last ultrasound that I was going to get. And suddenly the tech kept kind of going over the heartbeat and just kept going over it and over it. And I just kind of thought they were being extra thorough because there are some other things going on in my pregnancy. Like I knew where the placenta was kind of funny, where it was placed. So there was a few things that we were already watching on the ultrasound. But I'll never forget when the technician got really quiet and just kind of got really serious looking at the screen. Again, just going over the heart over and over again. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't really know what anything looked like. So the session ended and I had to go talk to the doctor afterwards. And it was a long wait. I was feeling really happy. I didn't bring my husband to this ultrasound because everything was going so good and he picked up some extra work and things were just going really good that day. And I felt like this was just going to be more good news. The doctor walked in and he sat down next to me and he explained not much to me. All he could explain is, "We're transferring you to maternal fetal medicine." And in that moment, I didn't really know what that meant. Then he looked at me and he said, "I am so sorry, but all I can tell you is that we found something in your baby's heart. We don't know what it is yet, and that's why we have to transfer you to maternal fetal medicine to find out what this means." He kind of went over the fact that they found a growth. They weren't able to identify what it was because they didn't have the equipment there. And all I could think to myself was, something is wrong with my baby. I left that office in tears. I couldn't even pay like my normal copay that I pay when I leave. I couldn't. I was just in tears. I was trembling. That was a very human moment. That's what happened. I went to my car and I cried for probably a half an hour. I called my family and let them know. I called my husband. I called my mother. I called my dad and just told them what the doctor essentially told me while freaking out. I mean, who wouldn't? That's a human moment. And that's something that a lot of people don't seem to talk about often, are really on social media. I don't see a lot of people talking about, this is how I took it. And I feel like everybody who's going through this should know that it's okay to react and it's okay to be upset. That being said, as things progressed and we finally got the final diagnosis on Tuberous Scorosis complex, that was a whole another pill that I had to swallow. When I looked at the heart and everything that was going on with the heart, I found several possibilities. Rhabdomyoma was one of them. I was really happy to hear that they were rhabdos when my doctor confirmed that. What I didn't know was the diagnosis of tuberous sclerosis complex. So when the doctor came in and he was like, "You're kind of relieved for that. Why?" And I was like, "Well, because rhabdomyomas tend to shrink. And historically, sometimes they do. They are a treatable tumor." So I was really excited to hear that. I had no idea what multiple tumors meant. And that's when he explained tuberous sclerosis to me. Back to the moment that something's wrong with my baby's heart just became something is wrong with my baby. Something is hurting my baby. This is horrible. Kidneys, lungs, brain, skin, everything. It was a really difficult moment. And again, I was in tears. Again, I was human. I cried. I came home. And I just kind of shut down. I think some people shut down a bit more than I do. I'm a little bit more proactive. I have a lot of anxieties that eat at me a little bit. Some people are going to be depressed for a few days. And I'd say if you were in bed and just didn't know what to do for a few days, let it ride a few days. That's okay. That's human with a difficult diagnosis. And for me, what I ended up doing was I ended up finding more information. The more information I saw, the more scared I became, because that was the moment that knowledge was showing me what this disease was. And since I didn't know what it was, it felt so like a black hole. Just, I didn't know what was going to happen. It almost felt surreal, like a horror movie or something to me, as I was finding out all these things that could go wrong and all these what ifs and everything with it. The thing is, I kept researching, and the more that I researched, while I found out more things that could go wrong, I also found about all the things that could go right. And it's not necessarily the fact that I was positive about all this stuff. I was just starting to learn and become familiar with it. Becoming familiar with this started to relieve some of my anxieties because I was beginning to prepare. At that moment, I had to prepare for a child that was not possibly going to be neurotypical. I had to grieve. This was a sense of loss for me. I had to grieve the parent that I thought I was going to be. I had to let that go. That was not an easy process. And I don't think we talk about the grief of letting go. We talk about grief, we relate to death, but grief is truly a sense of loss. And I had lost that parent, the parent that I wanted to be. The deep conversations I was going to have about silly things, school, boys, it was all out the window now. I didn't know. It was all cloudy. It was all gray now. So with that, I ended up radically accepting that I could give my child zero expectations. I believe that was the best thing I could do, was let go and grieve and in my mind bury that parent that I was going to be so that the parent that I am now could essentially be born. It was a hard process, and grief is different for everybody. And if you find yourself grieving, just know that that's okay. If you're in a situation similar, you're going to grieve a little. We think about all the ambitions, things we want to see our kids do, things we want to get our children that we didn't have. That's normal. And to have that kind of taken away, it's okay to feel a sense of loss. So that is something that I had to deal with. Another thing that came about finding more information into her disease and her diagnosis was I found kind of fields of support. The really good thing about having a difficult diagnosis and having a rare genetic diagnosis, a rare disease of any kind, usually there is some sort of foundation or some sort of project or some sort of research going on about that particular disease. Now with social media, we can find support. And in tuberous sclerosis complex, I found support pretty quickly. A lot of the information for tuberous sclerosis complex came from the Tuberous Sclerosis Complex Alliance. So I ended up finding this website, signing up for their newsletter, and getting involved with the information. So now suddenly I had a contact. Okay, what do I do? What's this disease about? Now I had information. And on top of information, I found what are people doing? Fundraisers, stuff like this, meeting people. In that, I ended up finding some Facebook groups that I ended up finding support in. I joined a couple of them with parents and family, children who have grown up with the disease, lots of people to support me. And that's the biggest thing you can do, I believe. Once you have dived deep into information, you can start to dive and find your support network. And that's really big. For me, it's an interesting support network because when I first came out with Zelda's diagnosis, my family kind of shied away a bit with that. My family has not been the support that I was hoping they would be, but that doesn't mean that they're not supportive. That means that they don't have to worry about the same things I have to worry about. They're still my family. They still support me, but they don't get what I'm going through. So I had to start finding support in people that do. So write down who your supports are. You know, you have a good friend that you can call. That's really good that you can do. For me, I had a few good friends that I could call. My friends were a little bit more understanding than my family. My family had begun to grieve getting the diagnosis as well. But these families that I found with these support groups and stuff were really the best support I've had during this entire journey so far, is just meeting people who've already been through what I've gone through. Even if it's not the exact same story, they have a lot of insight, and that's been really helpful for me. And that's helped me cope a lot. The next thing that's really helped me cope is reading about a child's perspective on various diseases. I haven't really found much for tuberous sclerosis complex yet. There are a few stories. I've watched a couple other YouTube videos, but there is a lot for other rare diseases. My field of interest in a little bit particularly is progeria. It's a very rare disease, and Haley Okines actually wrote a book called Old Before My Time. And I wanted to mention that book because it really helped me cope. It helped me cope with what my child's perspective of having a rare disease would possibly be. And if you've never read it before, I suggest highly to read it, because there's points in there that you're only going to get from somebody who has walked that walk through life. And it really helped me realize that having a rare genetic disease isn't always a bad thing. It's a difficult thing. It's a different life to live, but it doesn't mean it's all bad. And that has really helped me win. That has helped me feel good about this diagnosis now. I'm not happy about it, but I'm okay with it now, and I'm content. There's a lot of other things that I hope to share in a couple of later videos. So I just hope that helps. I think the first thing that helped me cope was finding all the information possible that I could do. The second was identifying a support community. The third thing I would say is that if you are depressed and it's been longer than a week, it's been longer than a month, it's time to get help. There's nothing wrong with getting help, and there are professionals out there that's what they do. They know how to provide tools to help you through difficult situations and navigate things like this. And if you are going through any sort of difficulty in life that you find yourself depressed or having anxiety, go get the help. Go see somebody, because it's going to make you stronger in that you can cope with the difficult situations that come at you. And I feel like that's very important, and we don't talk about it enough, that there's a process to everything, and you don't have to just suck it up. And the biggest thing is, you don't ever have to do this alone. What I'm doing with my daughter, all the help, the support that I have, I am not doing this alone. I'm not just trucking on through being strong mom. I have help. I have friends, I have family. I'm meeting new people, I'm meeting doctors, I'm meeting experts in the field. So that's really great. Also teachers and therapists. Not just in psychology, but in your child's well-being, depending on the diagnosis. You know, there's so many people that are going to come into your life and give you support now, if that's what you're going through, having a diagnosis, or if you're supporting a friend or another family member. You know, encourage them to get the help that their kid needs. There's a lot of programs and stuff out there that they're going to meet teachers and therapists that specialize in this kind of therapy, whether it be physical therapy, speech therapy, aqua therapy. These people are here to help. And when you meet these connections, you start to feel just a sense of community. And that's helped me cope a lot too, because I have a lot of really great people around me that I'm meeting and I'm excited to meet, whether it's meeting my daughter's next doctor, or meeting her social worker who's helping us right now navigate through how to get us to one place to another. Because of Zelda's diagnosis in particular, we have to travel across the country to get treatment. Some people have to travel across the world. So you meet a lot of people with a difficult diagnosis. You meet a lot of people with a rare diagnosis. So there's a bonus to that. And if that helps anybody going through anything similar, I really, really hope that speaks to you. If you guys have any questions for me that you would like me to answer in a video, any more things that I do to cope, because there is a lot of homework that I've done. I do have a lot of tools. If you guys want to know what my personal tools are, I'll be happy to share in a later video. Or if there's anything that you guys would think would make an interesting video about all of this, let me know in the comment section below. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel so I can get my daughter's story out there. And hopefully this was a good video. I'm not the best YouTuber out there. I'm trying though. Thank you.